Hi, I'm highlighting women in the political spotlight this week, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, and also her new Lieutenant Governor, New Jersey Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill, Miss Nancy Pelosi, Senator Amy Klobuchar, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, and Congresswoman Lisa McClain. Okay, we're going to start with Marjorie Taylor Greene today, aka MTG. She's Georgia's Congresswoman. She has been on a takedown tour, and she is ripping her Republicans on TV shows like The View. Yes, you heard me, The View, Marjorie Taylor Greene, CNN. A new side of her has emerged. No longer playing the part of the crazed MAGA woman with her red MAGA hat on that says, "Make America Great Again," screaming and getting Donald Trump elected. I've noticed she's more grown up now, softer speaking side to her. But don't be fooled. She's still Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she's gotten this far, and she is smart, and she doesn't quit. So she sees the light, I feel. Let's not get too hopeful, but I really do hope she does. I think she sees the light that we, the people, now know what's going on. And it's quite clear that the elections earlier this week reflected that. It's also refreshing, though, to hear her say what Democrat leaders and all of us have been saying. So she's saying the cost of living is the massive reason why the Republicans lost this week's elections.
Thanks for joining us. When we spoke the other day last month, it was relatively recently, you acknowledged that the cost of living here in the United States is still high under President Trump. Is that a major reason why Republicans, you believe, lost the elections the other day?
It's a massive reason, and I think they were surprised by it. But it's been something I've been talking about for quite some time, and that's the most important thing people care about: the ability to put food on the table, a roof over their heads, and also their safety and security for their financial future.
Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate Majority Leader Thune, and Vice President J.D. Vance, they all downplayed the election results, disputing that this is a broader wake-up call for your party. Are they wrong?
I don't think they should downplay it. I'm from Georgia, and we lost two very important public service commission seats that were statewide races in the state of Georgia. I think that should be a big wake-up call to my home state. We've got the entire slate coming up in 2026 with Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, and John Ossoff's Senate seat is up for election. So
the people that vote for them, the regular people, not the lobbyists that go to our White House or industry. This is still her speaking. She thinks this week's election is a wake-up call that should not be downplayed like the rest of her party is currently doing. So she also stated that her state of Georgia had 2 seats flip, and the upcoming election in 2026, the midterms, the whole slate is on the ballot. That's part of this takedown tour also. She's not stupid, and she's been also talking to Steve Bannon, who was a big part in getting Donald Trump elected. So even though he's not in the Donald Trump circles anymore, he is still a MAGA, and he's been known to be coaching her now on what to say. We'll see what happens if she has bigger inspirations, like really running for senator next year for Georgia, or maybe something else. Who knows? So she also stated that bailing out Argentina with the $40 billion and blaming our cattle ranchers is not the way to go. Instead, he's been touring other countries. True. Not being focused on America first. True. Domestic policy should be what they're working on. Now, she hasn't called Donald Trump out directly. She's talking about all the Republicans, and she's also saying Democrats aren't doing what they're doing, should be doing. But she's also made it clear that Republicans need to wake up and start acting on these issues that the people are speaking up about. So she also said that he's still hiding the Epstein files. Says her office gets multiple calls every day on this. And she is willing to read on the House floor, which makes it safe for her, she said, the list of men that the victims have been afraid to release on the floor publicly. She will release it for them. And that nobody on this list should be protected. She feels really strong about that. And she's been outside with the victims during their press conference that I had on my channel, in great support with them, along with the head of the committees, Rokana and Tom Massey, both senators. So she also believes the House not going to work is an utter failure on the government's part. She is leading by example and is accepting any invitation to give an interview. And she is now talking in kindness, she says. We don't have to agree, but we do have to discuss things and talk to one another in kindness. Could you imagine? This would be wonderful. Freedom of the press, she also mentioned, and basically said that Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, has a non-existent health plan when she asks him, and he tells them not to come to work still. She's still MAGA, she states when asked, and that MAGA people feel betrayed. So very interesting. Now we're going to switch over to Nancy Pelosi, but before I do, she praised her. She was the Speaker of the House for quite a few years, and she praised her because that's what people do when they know where talent is talent. It's like, so she praised Nancy Pelosi, unlike Donald Trump, called her an evil woman. But let's not talk about men right now. She got a lot of things done for the Democratic Party. And she really did. Although, I just want to point out that a 6-year-old text from Marjorie calls Nancy Pelosi a treasonous, and that treason should be and is punishable by death. So, that's what Marjorie used to be, she's saying, and that's who she not is anymore. I hope this is true. We're going to talk about 2 women won Tuesday's governor elections. In Virginia, Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger won, and in New Jersey, Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill. I highlighted these 2 women because they have resumes that prove they get things done in a government that seems not to be getting things done. And they also have positive goals when they're talking about them and ready to put them into play. So also shout out to Virginia State Senator, now the new VA Virginia Lieutenant Governor, Hazala Hashemi. She will be the first Muslim woman in the U.S. to be voted into a statewide office, and also a mom. And if you haven't, I know there's a lot of Islamophobia, going on in the Republican world, but if you actually know anybody that is of Muslim faith, they're beautiful people. They're intelligent, they're loving. To an AP article today, Getting to Nancy Pelosi, she announced yesterday that she is retiring. And it will be completed once 2026 is completed. That'll be her last year. And I just want to state a few highlights that they stated in this article. She has been an unmatched force in Congress. I mean, look at MAGA Mike for an example. I mean, they're totally opposite ends of the spectrum of what a Speaker of the House can get done and what a Speaker of the House can't get done. So she's been in Congress for 39 years. She was elected in 1987 after her fifth child went off to college. That's when she got elected. But she had a lot of political party experience while she was raising her 5 children. She was actually born in Baltimore, Maryland, and followed her brother and father. They were both elected officials. And I'm just highlighting her today because she has been an important piece of American history, and she has her own legend that she has made for herself. She routinely fended off calls to step aside by turning questions about her intentions into spirited rebuttals, asking if the same was being posed of her seasoned male colleagues on Capitol Hill. No doubt. So she fought through it and she stayed successful, which is also a theme I run through my shows, you know, the things women go through to get through. She also put out a lovely goodbye. It was called "My Message to the City I Love Is This. San Francisco, know your power," she said. "We have made history. We have made progress. We have always led the way." So she's now 85. She's also played a pivotal role with California redistricting effort, Prop 50, that hugely got passed this week in elections. And the parties come back in the week's election. She maintains a robust schedule at 85 of public events and party fundraising. And her announced departure touches off a succession battle back home and leaves open questions about who will fill her behind-the-scenes leadership role at the Capitol. Pelosi's legacy as House Speaker comes not only because she was the first woman to have the job as Speaker of the House, but also because of what she did with her gavel. During her first tenure from 2007 to 2011, she steered the House in passing landmark legislation into law: the Affordable Care Act, ACA, the Dodd-Frank financial reforms in the aftermath of the Great Recession, 2008, and a repeal of the military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy against LGBTQ service members. With Obama in the White House and Democratic Senator Harry Reid of Nevada leading the Senate, the 2009-10 session of Congress ended among the most productive since Lyndon B. Johnson era. But a conservative Republican Tea Party revolt bounced Democrats from power, ushering in a new style of Republicans who would pave the way for Trump to seize the White House in 2006. Yes, we know. Determined to win back the control, Pelosi helped recruit the probable dozens of women to office. Determined to win back control, Pelosi helped recruit and propel dozens of women to office in the 2018 midterm elections as Democrats running as the first as the resistance to Trump's first term, which worked in the 2020 elections. Former President Barack Obama said Pelosi will go down in history as one of the best speakers the House of Representatives have ever had. I agree from my lifetime as I see the history behind me and in front of me at the moment. Now, I want to bring up Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar. Please forgive me on her last name. She was speaking to Ben on the Midas Touch this week, and she was amazing, positive, truthful, laughing. She's trying to get Americans fed behind the scenes that have lost their SNAP benefits, along with many others. And also the federal employees that aren't getting paid. She also mentioned how Trump is refusing the 2 judges that have ordered him to pay out the full $8 billion that have already been set aside for this. And they also, in a court today, said again he has to do it, but now he's repealing it. So now we have to wait the weekend. These people have to wait the weekend for their SNAP benefits, and the employees, the federal employees that aren't getting paid. So if you can help out the food banks by you, I know the one in the city closest to me is running out of food regularly. It really helps to give if you can, if you're not being affected as much as these people are. Also, the food bank says giving in their apps cash, obviously not cash, but to give money also goes even further than giving the food. But, clean out your pantries like you do this time of the year for the food drives normally. Give more if you can. Go shopping if you can. They're taking boxes. You could pick up boxes from them first, and then you could go back and re-drop them off because they are running out of food. And they also take payments. So as of this morning, Trump has not released the funds the senator of Minnesota mentioned. She also explained that $20 billion of the $40 billion that bailed out Argentina could have paid for a year's worth of the health premiums that he refuses to discuss now with the Democrats. That's been holding up this shutdown. So all while remodeling the White House bathroom, building the ballroom, spending money on, jets for defense, for Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. So they're spending money, they're paying ICE gobs and gobs of money, all while they're not paying federal workers to go to work and still work. I mean, did you ever in your whole life? That's just my little add-on. How could they pay ICE so much money to go into our cities and beat people up? Literally, that's all they're doing or standing around. And they're getting their $50,000 bonuses. They're getting $100,000 salaries. They're getting student loan forgiveness if they have any. They have no qualification necessary, and they're not even meeting the drug test deadlines. They're just putting them straight to work immediately to beat up on citizens and non-citizens of this country. Illegally, by the way. These people are all committing crimes, and I can't wait for the day they're held accountable for them, along with all our cabinet members. Sorry about that. Back to Senator from Minnesota, Amy. Republicans have been on vacation for 7 weeks now, and they're getting their paychecks while not paying the other federal employees or feeding Americans. I mean, we see this. This is 2025. You cannot hide this stuff like you could have in the 1930s. You know, we see across the country, across the state, across the world, in the next neighborhood. We see this, and yet still nothing comes out of the White House but lies. She also mentioned she attended the very important Supreme Court hearing this week, which I'm glad she was, because I heard Trump sent in his goonies like Scott Bassett and a few others, and he was originally going to attend too, but he decided not to. Who knows why? I'm really surprised he loves the freaking camera. That was Women with Integrity this week. Now, for the two without integrity. It's so bad that it's funny to watch. But if you haven't seen Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who's from South Carolina, at the Charleston airport, which I guess she regularly uses, she was just throwing F-bombs all over the place at police offices, at the people at the TSA, just at the airport. And somebody caught her on camera, of course. Again, you can't hide who you are. So why just be a good person? She's also running for governor in her state of South Carolina. That's pretty scary. I just saw somebody speaking of her mood swings and her yelling that has a disorder that she is not addressing. And I totally agree. And if you see that clip this week of her verbally screaming at people again, you will feel the same way. I know some of these people do it for attention, but you know, that's just craziness at a certain level. So also another Congresswoman, Lisa McClain. I know you've seen her, but you probably don't know what her little name is. She's the little mousy woman that stands next to MAGA Mike each morning as he does his little fake press conference on C-SPAN. She usually talks after he comes out and lies and blames everything on the Democrats and literally just lies about everything that's going on with the shutdown. He comes up with a different excuse every day why it's shut down. He literally uses the excuses on rotation that he was originally using back in week 1. He's reusing those again. It's just incredible. So she comes on to the microphone after he speaks. She just screams, points into the camera, screaming, calling Democrats' name and blaming the Democrats for the shutdown and blaming the Democrats for Americans not getting fed and Democrats are terrorists. She's just completely out of control.
Of wisdom. But again, here we are today, and I want to be very clear about the consequences of the Democrats' actions. 42 million Americans will lose their SNAP benefits because they voted to shut the government down. Air traffic controllers, TSA agents, and federal law enforcement officers are working without pay because they voted to shut the government down. Democrats have weakened our military, threatened families, and held hard-working Americans hostage. Why? All because they voted to shut the government down. And why did they inflict this pain? Because Democrats wanted leverage. Leverage to appease their radical base with more wasteful spending. And don't take my word for it. They've admitted this countless times. They're not even ashamed of this. And today we'll prove it again when the largest federal workers union called on Democrats to end the shutdown. What Democrats do? They still voted no. When air traffic controllers unions asked them to support the clean CR to make sure that the government stayed open, Democrats voted no. But the socialist wing of their party wants government-run health care, taxpayer-funded benefits for more illegals, and another $1.5 trillion in wasteful spending. That's what your Democrats want. Enough is enough. We aren't going to let your socialist base call the shots. To every Democrat watching, hear me when I say this. It is time to stop holding the American people hostage. Just because you are being held hostage by your socialist base.
And also, just for a side note to finish, who else is completely out of control? A woman highlighted this week. She usually comes on after Lisa McClain. It's the labor secretary, who really doesn't like labor, apparently, because she doesn't try to help to get people back to work anymore. And she's a newbie on the scene that comes on and just starts lying to the camera.
Will it take the shutdown ending for us to be able to get a full picture?
Yeah, thank you for the question on the Labor Department and specifically BLS, the labor statistics, how important those data points are in order for the markets, in order for employers to understand what the workforce is needed. We are not able to release a lot of those reports because we have those furloughed employees. So once the government is open, we will get right back to work in releasing that. We released one report earlier this month because that was required by law, and the CPI in order to talk about Social Security checks for 2026 that had to be calculated. So we brought some workers back for that, but we will not be able to release the other data points.
So good luck if you see them these days. Just a contrast of the woman in the White House this week. And please hit the subscribe button. It's totally free and it helps my channel grow. You can also like the video on the thumbs up. I do that on every video I watch, so this way it helps other people's algorithms and it also keeps track of what I've watched and what I haven't watched in the past. So if you like it, hit the thumbs up, please, and please hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And have a great weekend. Relax and enjoy everybody. Love you.